In this video, I want to talk about the literally easiest way to clean a car engine without damaging it. What's going on? Glad you guys are here and welcome back to the Wilson Auto Detailing community. If you love everything auto detailing, you might be a pro auto detailer or a car enthusiast, then consider subscribing to the channel. So let me bring you guys in and show you what this engine looks like before we start cleaning. All right, so first we'll look at the hood here. There's no hood blanket, it's just straight up metal. Alrighty, so let's see, I'll rub my finger a little bit. Some of you guys are gonna say, he's scratching the paint. Yeah, but it's the underside of the hood, so who cares? As you can see, there's a lot of dust, dirt, whatever. All right, down here, check out the depth of the engine too. This is a bit kind of like a tactical challenge here to get down in these cracks and crevices of this engine without, I don't know, damaging anything, hitting the electric stuff a little bit too much. But you guys can get the point here. There's a lot of dust, dirt, and whatever. So right here, I've got my degreaser. It's diluted like somewhere around 4:1. I can't say what this degreaser is yet, but I will the second week of May. And this is my little tiny Speedmaster brush. It's actually a Max Shine brush. This is my full-size Speedmaster brush from Speedmaster. This is my long wheel well brush. And then here is a brush from a company called Set Block, actually, that I really like here. A little bit more detailed brush. Now, you don't technically have to have all these brushes, but this is literally all you have to clean an engine. Now, I'm going to use a hose and free-flowing water. However, I've got my degreaser and I've got a few brushes. Bam! I can offer engine detailing services in my professional business. Now, regarding water, I like to put out these engine cleaning videos because I like to show water is not going to damage the engine, like many people think, okay? There is a possibility of water damaging an engine should you not let common sense lead. But in this case, I know common sense is no longer common, but in this case, I'm going to let common sense lead and I'm not going to damage anything. So first, I'm going to start with the hood up here and I'm going to talk through it. So before I do anything, I'm just going to wet it a little bit with the hose, just like that. And then I'm going to take my degreaser. Now you could put this in like a pressurized spray bottle, and that would make it a little bit easier on your forearms, but I don't have a pressurized spray bottle with me. So I'm just going to soak the underside of the hood here in this degreaser. Again, diluted about 4:1. You can use Meguiar's Super Degreaser. You can use, I don't know, Super Clean. I don't like to use Purple Power on bare metal, but any of those degreasers will work, though this is definitely my favorite. So, there we go. You guys can see I'm using a ton for obvious reasons. There's a lot of dirt, grease, and grime that gets kicked up in this underside, and I like to make sure that I have tons of product to break down as much of that grease and grime as I can before I have to actually touch the paint. So that should be good right there. And then I'm going to take my long-handled wheel well brush and get all the edges here and literally, very simply, just scrub until I can hose it off that I've gotten every area. I've taken my little detail brush, get in the corners, and then be done. Okay, so you guys can see that's going to be dripping. Of course, the reason I started with the hood is because that dirt falls down, the water continues to drip. I don't want to have to redo things, so I'm always looking at the right sequence of things. If I want to clean the engine, I want to make sure that the dirt drips down before I start cleaning that. So now we're going to hit the engine. It's going to be pretty much the same process, but a few more notes. This is going to dry. As we do that, you can see the water's dripping down. Nothing's getting damaged. There is water down there already. So let's go ahead and talk about the engine bay itself. All right, so I'm going to take my degreaser, and just like I did with the hood, I'm going to spray it basically everywhere. I'm going to use a ton, all right? So you guys just be prepared. I'm using a ton of degreaser. I'm going to hit basically every single surface in the engine. All the black trim, all of the compartments down here, metal, plastics, like whatever it is. Now what you will notice is a lot of the dirt, the surface dirt that is on a lot of these compartments actually gets cleaned up without even touching it, okay? Because on the engine, more often than not, the grease and grime that's on all these parts is not actually something that is incredibly like adhered to the surface this or anything like that. It's very, very, very easy to remove, okay? So it requires very little agitation, and yet at the same time, it might not require any agitation at all because, once again, the pressure from the hose, or not the hose, but the pressure from the spray nozzle itself will basically push the dirt off so that when you go to hose it off, there's nothing left. All right, so it's very simple. Looks just like this. Now, as I do this, I'm gonna take basically all my brushes and I'm gonna use them in a little bit different ways. So I'll use my tiny little miniature kind of Speedmaster on some of these areas here that are a little bit tighter that I need to get in between. Once again, I'm being very careful. I'm not going to touch any area that has like an electrical component to it. I'm not hitting any wires. I'm not dislodging anything, okay? The only areas I'm being more aggressive on are these plastic trim areas that I know are watertight. They're not gonna hurt anything by me moving my brush around like this. So once again, engine cleaning is so overthought so much of the time, and it really just doesn't need to be. I'll take my Speedmaster, get down here, agitate just a little bit, and the more you get accustomed to seeing engines and understanding what you're touching, probably the less, I don't know, freaked out you'll get. So this is very simple, but this is what this looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna turn, I just got done hosing. I'm not gonna dry anything right this second. I'm just gonna turn the key on and you can, or the car on, you can listen to the sound. Okay, so the reason I said listen to the sound is because there's no difference, right? This is exactly what a car turning on sounds like. You can see I flooded the engine with water, okay? But here we are. It's running fine. Now, as a note, I don't do this approach or use this approach with cars that are like pre-2004, just for different reasons. Engines weren't always manufactured the same way, but they're so watertight now that you can do it this way. So, I'm gonna let the car run for like 8 to 10 minutes, dry off just a little bit, and then we'll come back in to finish. Okay guys, so I let the engine run, basically dried everything out, blew it out a little bit, wiped it with a microfiber towel, and now it's dry. What I got here is a 5-to-1 dilution ratio of Chemical Guys VRP and distilled water. When you dilute Chemical Guys VRP, it's very easy. You can use it in a spray bottle, right? Particularly when you dilute it with water, right? It's water soluble, and basically it knocks down the shine a little bit, so it makes it a perfect engine dressing because it's not overly shiny, and it'll also dry on its own very uniformly. So I will literally take it and spray it all over this engine on all the black pieces. I'm not going to spray it on like white plastics, but all the trim, which makes up a lot of the engine, I'm going to just go ahead and spray it. You can see I'm not being super detailed about where I'm getting it because, again, it has to dry on its own, and you could hold a leaf blower to it if you wanted to, but when it dries, it's gonna look a lot more uniform than it does right now, and it's not gonna look quite as glossy. So really my goal is to just get it onto every black piece, particularly the black trim that I can see, just like this, and then I let it dry on its own. Normally takes a little while, but the next day it comes out looking really amazing. I'll get it down here. And again, this is a form of like liquid, and again, it's diluted in water, so for these ideas that you can't use water in an engine or there's some sort of long-term effects of doing something like this just isn't true based on numbers and numbers and dozens and hundreds and thousands of engines that people, including myself, have detailed with water. So let's go ahead and look at the finished result here. And you guys can see it looks very different. And again, it's a little overly shiny right now. Once all that dries, it will look very different. Much more, not matte black, but just a really deep black glossy look. There'll be no, little white residue. That'll go away. My main point here is just for you guys to see how simple and quick this was. This took, let's say not including drying time, this took 8 to 10 minutes. And so this is one of those things that you can include in your services that ends up really building a lot of profitability, and it's just very, very, very simple. So here's the overall look here. Very, very nice. Again, the hood has been cleaned as well. Underneath the hood, you guys can see that there. Looks very, very nice. And then down here, generally your customer is not going to look up at the underside of the hood, but that's what the finished engine looks like. So it's a very simple process and a very short process, and also probably the most important part, it's a very safe process. This is not going to damage this engine. It's not going to hurt anything. Once again, when you can test something over and over and over and over again and observe the same result, you can kind of make a logical conclusion based on that data. So based on the dozens and dozens and hundreds of thousands of vehicles that people have cleaned, including myself, not that I've detailed thousands of engines, but let's just say at least a couple hundred engines, these are the kind of results you're getting. It's not damaging anything. I can lower the hood. That's going to dry overnight, be totally good to go. And it took me 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes total to run the car and let it dry a little bit. And there you go. Clean engine. So if you guys want to check out any of the brushes that I used in this video, or a degreaser that you can use for engine cleaning, I'm gonna hook up all that stuff, Amazon links in the YouTube description box below. Use those links because it does give this channel a small commission, but it helps me to continue putting out content just like this. If you are new here and you love everything auto detailing, then consider subscribing. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I'll see you guys in the next video.